Niate Steve Pelletier Yenishe, Maideshkis Ninishli, Billigana Bashachin, Kinlachini Dachache, Billigana Nationale. Welcome back to Resball. 12 games in for the Detroit Pistons. We're recording this on November 12th, 2025, after a shocking victory against the Bulls. So let's get into these first 12 games with the Pistons right about now. Andy, welcome back. Let everybody know where they can find you before we get into it.
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan.
So the first question is just what is your impression of these Pistons in the first 12? We're going to say 11, 12 games because, wow, we're going to celebrate tonight's win against the Bulls. It kind of doesn't tell you much just because we're down 7 guys. And so you can't really say like, oh, this is how it worked in the season. Tonight was a gut check and they definitely passed with flying colors.
So obviously I'm super happy with all the wins we're getting, how the team is playing, the victories we've pulled out. I'm not as excited probably as most of the fans just because we have not beaten any good teams. Like we haven't played any good teams. The best team that we beat was probably Houston. That was probably the best victory. The best team we played, Cleveland. It was the second night of a back-to-back, so you have to take that into account, but they blew us out. And Cleveland, honestly, is a team that we usually struggle with. But for me, if you look back to something you pointed out last year, it's like, how does Detroit do against the good teams, the playoff teams? And the record is not good. So the fact that we're beating the teams we're supposed to, and even getting some wins we're not supposed to because we've had players hurt. We've also had the fortune of Cade going nuts in a few fourth quarters to pull out some games. Like you can't rely on that stuff. So if we have a couple of 10-game stretches where our record looks more normal, I wouldn't panic and overreact to it. But when people start talking like we are the best team in the East or something like that, I think they've lost their mind. I think they're just too excited with what's happened. I love it. I'm happy, but let's not get crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just to reiterate, the schedule so far has been the Bulls, which was a loss, the Rockets, the Celtics, the Cavs, the Magic, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, the Jazz, the Nets, the Sixers, the Wizards, and then the Bulls again tonight. So let's look at those teams in where they stand in their respective conferences. Cleveland is 4th right now in the East. Philly is 6th. Orlando is 10th. Boston's 11th. Brooklyn's 13th. The Wizards are dead last in the East. Meanwhile, on the Western side, Houston, the best quote unquote team we played, is 5th in the West at 6-3. And then Utah is in 10th place. Memphis is in 11th. And Dallas, I mean, we all know Dallas is at the bottom. And if the Pelicans did not exist, then Dallas would be at the bottom of the barrel. So that's why we're trying to say, like, curb your enthusiasm. Pun intended there. We kind of are the pessimistic. I say we're the more keep it real, like the realistic podcast. But I understand if you say we're the pessimistic podcast. And Andy alluded to it last year at the end of the season when we had Lance Capriosi on. Shout out to Lance. What we found out was that the Pistons beat everybody well, and they played well against everybody. Even when they quote unquote struggled, they still played well, except for 2 types of teams. Number one, the top 10 teams in the NBA last year, they were like 5-10 or 10-20, something like that. They lost twice the games that they won against the top teams in the NBA. And the other type of team they struggled against were the Central Division. Didn't beat the Bucks once last year. They beat the Pacers once. They consistently beat the Bulls. And then why do I always forget the other team? So the Cavs. The Cavs they beat once. So that was a clear like, uh-oh, this is a problem. So the opening night to me was a little worrisome. And we talked about it a little bit because I'm like, man, if they're going to struggle beating the Bulls, like their only hope is against the Pacers who are just decimated by injuries because there's still no real answer for Giannis. When they play Milwaukee, Giannis is still Giannis. And then Cleveland, obviously, they got smacked down by, and it was like, ooh, maybe this is worrisome. So it's a good victory tonight. And while we are kind of saying like tonight doesn't really matter, it's more in terms of like, the main guys, Cade, Duren, Stu, Asar, all those guys, since they didn't play. But to get a victory against one of the Central Division opponents, and especially one that you should beat, fantastic. And tonight's victory also shows a clear change in culture. I mean, we've talked about it the last 2 years. Everybody's talked about it the last 2 years. But I think tonight, in particular, where Paul Reed goes for like 28, 14, and 6, Duncan shoots 7 of 10 from three. Dennis still plays fantastic, and Ron Holland still getting out there and playing fantastic defense. Devontae Green being scrappy. I mean, the starting lineup of the guys I just mentioned tonight, like they obliterated the Bulls team tonight. It was very impressive. So when you're down 7 guys, I don't think you get many victories ever. And to see the Pistons pull it out with their third string center, really only one guy who's consistently played any minutes in Duncan Robinson in this lineup, and to go out and annihilate one of the teams in the Central Division, that is a good victory. I think it's a quality victory, regardless of circumstances. And for the reasons that Andy alluded to here, of just like, man, the schedule has been very easy, and there hasn't been many like battles to be tested so far. We got Memphis the night after the whole Ja fiasco. It came off suspension, right? So it's like, oof, that is weird. Brooklyn is just blah. Even the Sixer game, it was on the second night of a back to back where Joel Embiid did not play because Joel Embiid is not playing on the second nights of a back to back. And then the Wizards game, I'm not going to lie to you. If the Pistons played either Cade Cunningham or Jalen Duren tonight, I was going to go off on a little bit of a rant because to me, especially the Cade foul where Kem Whitmore, smacked him down, stood over him like he did something, and then Cade was on the ground for a long time. I know all of us watching live in that moment, people in the arena were like, here we go. Season is just about to take a downturn. But Cade was able to get up, finish the game, break Kobe Bryant's record for most missed shots in a game. That was a clear thing to me of like, we're in game 11 and Cade already looks like he's played all 82 games and is, beat down. It's a long season, so I'm glad that we saw Cade not play tonight. I am so serious when I say this. Like, they need to rest Cade for like 10 games. This pace and the amount of work they're putting on him is not sustainable for 82 games. I don't even know if it's sustainable for 65 games. You cannot have that kind of wear and tear on your body 11 games in. It's just, again, it's not good. But at the same time, like, what else do they have to turn to? So I do think tonight's victory is a little bit more of a thing in favor of my, like, just rest Cade for a while, because look at how these guys responded. And then meanwhile, you can still get a star back. You can still get Duren back. You can still get a beef stew back, and then let Cade come back and make sure he is okay and not going to take this kind of a pounding. And unfortunately, the Wizard game does still show. Sure, Duren has taken a step forward in scoring. Sure, SR has been great in ball handling and all that stuff. It still does seem like, man, they need to get Cade some help because, again, while we are so happy with the record so far, what is it, 10-2 now? Like, a lot of these things, and specifically with Cade and the load they're giving him, is not sustainable.
So, along those lines, right now, Cade is averaging 37 minutes a game. That's not sustainable. And it's not necessarily just the high minutes, it's the amount of work that he has to do. He is doing a ton of work. And typically, if he's not on the floor, Asar is the point guard. That's been what we've been doing. And it's only those two who basically ever run point, unless it's a weird situation. And then JB has played Dennis. And for the last 2 games, I think Dennis has proved that you can give him more of that responsibility. And I know I always sound negative on Levert, but he just hasn't played I mean, and he's not a point guard. Like we knew he wasn't going to. It's kind of an odd role that he's filling, but Dennis can fill that role, and just giving Cade a few more minutes of rest, I think would be very helpful. But then here's the reality. If you look at how close some of these games have been and how we pull it out at the end with Cade having a monster fourth quarter, like we don't have 10 wins if we're not playing Cade all those minutes. And that's where the question becomes like, do we really need every single one of these wins, or do we need to have like more of a long-term approach? Because if not, like maybe Cade has a monster season, it's awesome, and we get to the playoffs and he's just done. Like he's just fried and has nothing left for the playoffs. So I do think that's something we have to look at because the team is deep, but we're talking about depth, not including Cade Cunningham, because everything revolves around him.
Yeah, and as we're talking about this now, it just hit me. I'm like, whenever Ivy does come back, like that might be a good time to just sit Cade for a while. You know, did him right, and it also gives you a great opportunity to be like, what do we got with Ivy? I know the whole thing is like working the two together, but it seems like a nice compromise of keeping your superstar healthy, working Ivy back in, letting him run things a little bit more and reintegrate it so he can still show off his skill and work out the rough patches because every season it's very rare. There's only been two teams ever, maybe three if you count that 60-win Hawks team that like didn't have real rough patches throughout the season. 89 Bulls, that Warriors team that beat their record, and then again like any team that's hit 60 wins, which aren't very many. Otherwise, every team is going to have rough patches. And if from front offices to coaching staffs, like they have to figure out very early on, okay, when that happens, what are we going to do? Or maybe build it in themselves, like how Greg Popovich did, where he's like, I'm just going to rest dudes. Who cares? Like, I don't care what they say. And make sure that by come playoff time, like we got everything right and we've worked out all these things and had time to try it out. Um, so yeah, that's been my biggest worry. It's again, I didn't want the podcast to start out this way, being so pessimistic on things because there is a lot to celebrate. But yeah, the Wizards game to me was the part where I'm like, man, they can't keep doing this to Cade and putting this much of a load on him, both minutes wise and on offense. Because when he's on the court, he's going to give you everything and play all out and take a lot of punishment on both ends. So you got to be able to find a way to make sure that he makes it all the way to the end of the season and for his own benefit too, to make it to at least 65 games so he does qualify for all the awards that he should win.
And it'll be interesting to see if JB switches things up, like you mentioned, like when Ivy's back, does he play around with some things or does he just keep everything the same and kind of just keep pushing, which I don't think he should, but I think he might. And the reason why I feel that way is because, like, and it's still early and there's not a big, there's not a lot of proof, but we think Dennis could use more minutes. We think, and for me, Chaz getting more minutes, he hasn't looked great, but it's not about that. When Duncan Robinson fouled out of that game, we had issues because we had no floor spacing. Like if you take out Duncan Robinson, our next best 3-point shooter is probably Stu, but he's out for injury, so he's not even playing. It's like we don't have any shooting. So if Chaz is our next best potential shooter, give him some minutes, get him comfortable. So if we do need him in situations, he's prepared for it. But instead, we see Javonte Green, which, yes, everyone loves his hustle and how he's played. I don't think he's the answer. But coaches do what, coaches feel most comfortable with. And that's what I wonder. Is JB going to just do what he feels most comfortable with? Or is he going to look at it and be like, you know what? We banked a lot of these wins early. Let's play around a little bit with some different lineups, some different ideas, give Cade some rest, see some different things, and kind of look at the season long term instead of saying like we're going to work for every single win we can get, which I understand. I just don't think it's the right approach.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that too. Injuries have kind of forced JB to do things. That's my big wonder is like, I wonder if they didn't get injured, if he would try things out like this. Um, it's a blessing in disguise. Like, especially if you have injury stuff, you want it to happen at the beginning of the season, and then you get to see your coaching staff, like how well they respond to that, how well they prepare the guys coming up, as well as your front office. How did they actually get talented guys that fill in the role and that can step up like a Paul Reed, Duncan Robinson, Dennis Jenkins, Ron Holland, all those guys. And while we are kind of critical of Karras, like he still had 2 blocks and a steal, his defensive effort has been really remarkable. And that's one of the staples of this Trajan Langdon staff already is like it's clear whatever veteran guy they bring in, whatever his reputation was before, they're like, you got to play tough defense. If not, then get out of here. That's the big. I know I'm gonna go off on a Javante Green rant. I'm sorry for all of you that love the hustle and stuff, but that's the big reason why he's there is because he plays like a maniac on defense, even if he is inefficient and all those other things. Let's get to some positives though. As of 11 games, the Pistons were second in blocks, third in steals. Like they smother people on defense. And talking about it with Karras there, like it's at that point to where everybody has to buy into defense. Even Duren, who I am going to talk a little bit about more, and I'm obviously labeled the Duren hater, but you cannot deny that Duren hasn't improved on defense. He has improved on defense. He still had some effort things from time to time, but he has been their second leader in blocks. And even I can't discount that because Isaiah Stewart is maybe the best rim protector in the league. I mean, it's actually a conversation between him and Victor Wembanyama. And Wembanyama is like a foot taller than him. I was just listening to Zach Lowe and Andy Katz talk about the Eastern Conference and their power rankings. They had the Pistons in the top 5. And when they brought up Isaiah Stewart, they're like, last year Isaiah Stewart had something like 45%. He only let guys shoot something like 45% on shots at the rim, which was clearly the best in the NBA. And then Zach Lowe's like, this year it seems like that percentage is zero. Like he's not allowing anything at the rim, which is 100% the case. He's just been able to eliminate everybody and anything coming in there. And now that we actually have seen Stu and Duran together in the starting lineup, I kind of think Tobias is out of a job in the starting lineup just because defensively, like that really does seem to shine. And they haven't struggled quite as bad as when Tobias was in the starting lineup. I don't think it's necessarily Tobias's fault, but the big thing for me is immediately Stu comes in that first game, he gets up 8 threes. That second game that he's a starter, he gets up 6 threes. That's exactly what we wanted him to do. And Andy, your realization of Isaiah Stewart being a legitimate volume 3-point shooter for his position is coming through. 3.1 per game right now. But hopefully when he comes back and gets in the starting lineup, that volume will go up 39.3% across these 9 games for him. He did get hurt, unfortunately, and scoring 10.7 points per game. And like I said, 2.1 rebounds or 2.1 blocks, 6.7 rebounds. One of the best two-way players in the league and absolutely 100% the leader on defense, which is the identity of this team. It's funny that Duren is getting all the press, but after Cade, everybody, I think, internally and amongst the fan base is like the identity of the team is reflected in Isaiah Stewart.
So I I'm happy you brought up how like injuries can make coaches do some different things, and that's a good time to learn some things because okay, if the Pistons are going to extend Duren and they do like keeping Isaiah Stewart, like they don't want to end up moving him, you're not going to pay both of them what they deserve and do 24 minutes for each of them. That's just not efficient. Like Isaiah Stewart last season played a career low in minutes per game, less than when he was like a rookie. And that's because of just splitting the load with Duren, where before he was a starter. So the only way that Duren's going to get the minutes he deserves and that Stu's going to get the minutes he deserves is if they can play on the court together. And I think in the few minutes they've had, they've looked good. Like it's been something that's playable, and it kind of forces Stu to shoot more threes, which we want him to do. But I think we can learn about the team that way. So that has been very beneficial.
Yeah, this is probably a feather in JB's cap. Anybody wants to criticize like he doesn't want to do these things. Like the minute that Tobias got hurt, I was like, oh, I wonder who they're going to start at power forward. And they just seem to be resistant to trying Stu at the power forward again. I remember all the way back to last season. I think it was D in the comment. Shout out to D, who was like, Steve, you're the only one who believes that Stu's ever going to play at power forward again. And after last season, I remember that I was like, yeah, I guess that was a bad take. I guess they're not going to do it. So to see that again materialize here and to see it be a good thing and to see them be like fire away Stu from three early in the season, that's what you want to do against the bums. Or no, sorry, I shouldn't say bums. Instead, it's disrespectful to professional NBA players, but the bottom teams, the teams that definitely aren't in the top 10, this is when you try those lineups out and you tell your guys, work on this part of your game, do this, because you know here is the safer spot to do it while it is also under live fire against, legitimate athletes and teams that are still trying to prove themselves early on in the year. So that is a good thing to go along with the defense and to go along with like, oof, we need some other floor spacers. I mean, you and I are still going to argue they still do need another just like pure shooter, but Stu embracing that role and Ron Holland still to continuing to do that off the bench. Those are the two that I think go completely uncelebrated, and it should be brought up more because if you get another 3-point shooter in here, those guys are only going to improve, and that's only going to help them out more.
And I know he might have been hesitant to play Stu and Duren together because if there's a foul trouble issue, but that's why you have B-ball Paul. I mean, he has shown he can step in, he can play, he can get it done. So they have a lot of versatility on what they can do. And that just frees up Ron Holland and Asar to not have to play as big. And then the Detroit becomes a really big team on the floor. They have length everywhere.
Yeah, you segued perfectly into my next point was the center depth on this team, probably the best in the league now, between Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, and B-Ball Paul. Again, B-Ball Paul tonight, 28. It was 13, I just checked. 28 points, 13 rebounds. I think it was 6 assists and like 4 steals and a block. Like, man, I don't know. There's another third string center in the league who would do that against. And then it was Vucevic, the guy that annihilated both Stu and Duren in that first game, just obliterated them from three. Meanwhile, Vucevic like hardly did anything tonight, and B-Ball Paul stepped out there and just like stomped him, man. So the center depth, kudos to Trajan and the staff for number one getting him after Philly was like, we'll just throw you out on the waiver wire. And Pistons picked him up and then renegotiated his contract to pay him more money in the season and then made him a priority to return in the offseason as well. We said it a lot already. Please keep a B-Ball Paul around here to be like the Corliss Williams or like the JYD, those kind of role player dudes that stay in Detroit a long time and contribute to winning in the little things, doing the little things. And when you get them more minutes on the court, they have a night like B-Ball Paul had tonight. So yeah, the defensive identity of this team, though, that's absolutely 100% what they need to lean into. And there's one guy that's materialized for more than anybody else. You ready for these amazing defensive numbers, Andy?
Let's hear him.
So this Piston player in 11 games has a defensive field goal percentage overall of 37.7%. That means anybody that he's guarding, he's having them shoot 37.7% from the entire field. On 3-pointers, this player is allowing guys to shoot only 23.8% from 3. On 2-pointers, this guy is only allowing opponents to shoot 47.7%. Break that down even further. This guy on shots less than 16 feet is only allowing 42.4%, which is ridiculously good. I mean, anything under 50% on 6 feet and in, like you are definitely not allowing guys to be comfortable or really get to the rim. And this guy on shots greater than 15 feet is allowing 26.5%. Like any guy that he guards that he shoots more than 15 feet, like go ahead, man. And then on shots greater than 10, or excuse me, on shots less than 10 feet, this guy is allowing 47.8%. So really it's the only blemish in the defensive here is what I like to call the floater range. Between 6 and 10 feet is like floater kind of mid-range stuff. No, impeccable defensive numbers here in 11 games. Who is this Piston, Andy?
Isaiah Stewart,
Incorrect.
Asar Thompson,
Incorrect.
Ron Holland,
Incorrect.
Cade Cunningham.
Let me share my screen. What does it say at the top there, Andy?
It says Cade Cunningham.
Cade Parker Cunningham. I didn't tell Andy about this, but my section for Cade here is Cade is now the third best two-way player in the league. It's Victor Wembanyama, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then it's Cade Cunningham. Tell me I'm right, Andy. I mean, think about it. Who's the fourth guy after that? No disrespect to Jason Tatum, who I did think, but Tatum's not playing right now, and who knows how he'll be after injury. I still think even with Tatum healthy, I don't know that Tatum's ever had defensive numbers like this. Again, Cade is only allowing guys to shoot 37.7% from the entire field. He's only allowing guys to shoot 42.4% on shots 6 feet and in. And then Cade Cunningham is only allowing guys to shoot 23.8% from 3-point range. You cannot get, I know it's 11 games, but 11 games is a large enough sample size to say like, okay, this dude is getting it. And if you want to see a player show like the teams I am playing are not at my level, these are some of those numbers. Factor this into 27.5 points per game, 9.9 assists, 1.4 steals, 0.8 blocks per game. Shooting splits for Cade have been 50% from 2-point range, 28.8% from 3-point range, and then 80.2% from that free throw line. Cade's numbers on that: 9 total blocks and 15 total steals. It's still bizarre. We're in year 5 and Cade's still not getting enough respect. Shout out to Combos Court, who did bring up the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander versus Cade Cunningham, and shout out to Combo, who did say Shai is obviously the better player, but Cade has much more two-way ability and more skill, which I think at this point, like, that's undeniable. It's like, you can't take away what Shai does, but Shai does not impact this way on defense, even though he's like a steals king. And the blocks too, like the Wizards game in particular. I mean, Cade is the reason they won the Wizards game. Let's go look at his stat line from that Wizards game as well. Yeah, the defense of Cade Cunningham is going, I don't want to say completely uncelebrated, because again, like Combos and I think like Mello and some of those other TV analysts have brought it up, but I still don't think they talk about it in this way, where at this point it's undeniable that he is the third best two-way player in the league. Against the Wizards, obviously 46 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 5 steals, 2 blocks. What other point guard is going to do that in the NBA? None of them.
I am shocked that his defensive numbers were that good in so many places, because I mean, I've noticed the increase in blocks, like, and just contests and how well he's been doing with that. I think it does help that he has Asar and Stu and other players to take away some of the tougher defensive assignments, but he's willing to defend anybody at any time in any game situation. And I think because he has carried so much of an offensive burden, I have not realized how good he has been defensively. And even sometimes he still gets called for a foul that upsets me because he doesn't get the same call on the other end of the court where it's like he just got hit on the other end with the exact same thing and you didn't blow a whistle on the other guy, but you're blowing a whistle on Cade. I'm shocked that his numbers were that good, and that only increases me saying he needs less minutes because he's not taking the other end of the court off. Like a lot of the superstars who are putting up big numbers and carrying their team offensively, they are not doing that on the defensive end. He's doing it on both ends of the court, and that is very difficult to sustain for 82 games.
Yeah, I mean, Cade alone, we already know in the playoffs is a problem, but Cade this way, playing on both ends, is a gigantic problem. And he's only shooting 28.8% from three. If he's even like 33% from three, which is a point we've brought up so many times already, that's like unstoppable. You cannot do anything about it at all. You just got to hope that your guys can outscore. And with the Pistons still lacking a second option, still lacking shooting, yeah, you got to find a line because you obviously do not want K to stop playing this way. He's not going to stop playing this way. This is just who he is. It's I don't like to bring my own like analysis on players, and I'm obviously like I'm not going to pat myself on the back and be like, I saw this about Cade Cunningham because a blind man could see how good Cade Cunningham was. But my comp from him coming out was always Devin Booker on offense, Jason Tatum on defense, which has materialized. And now we see Cade is going even further with that. Absolutely, you have to find a way to get him rest, but absolutely, you have to find a way to get him 65 wins or 65 games, excuse me. If the Pistons remain in the top five, Cade is producing like this, MVP is not out of the question now.
Yeah, when we talked about MVP before the season, we thought he could put up the numbers, but we didn't think he'd have the wins to get the award. And just getting this fast start, they've given themselves a nice cushion where they can, be pretty average for the rest of the year, like a 500 team, and they're borderline in the win area of what he would need. But not only that, he's getting some national attention now because he's putting up 19 points in the fourth quarter a couple of times and pulling games out and getting the credit he finally has deserved for some time.
Yeah, and the Wizards game, again, indicative of who he is. He's just like, we are not losing this game. I don't care what happens. I don't care how many guys were down. I don't care about how injured I am. We are not losing this game because we should not lose to this team. That's just who he is and how he operates. So please give him some rest and please still get him some more help. And it might come in the form of Ivy, that's still on the table. Even with Ivy, you and I still think like they're still down another shooter. Before we get into the shooting stuff, getting back more towards like being critical on this team, I think Duncan Robinson is going completely uncelebrated in all this. Like I said, I listened to Zach Lowe, love on him. I've listened to a couple of the NBA TV analysts and all them talk about it. It starts with Cade, as it should. Again, Cade is nobody's beyond criticism, but I mean, like after showing all these numbers, what do you have to criticize at this point? Like, come on now, just playing some beautiful basketball for 48 minutes. There are 37 minutes, I guess, now of how many he's playing. After that discussion turns to Jalen Duren and how he's taken a step forward and exploded for all these points in the beginning of the season. After that, it's been like defense, JB. Some people have brought up Stu and his, second to none rim protection ability. A little bit here and there of like Ron and Asar. I don't think I've really heard anybody talk about how important Duncan Robinson is to this team. He is also important to this team on defense. I talked about it last time. Like he's always the guy that gets back on defense. And the reason he fouled out of that, it was the Sixer game or was it the Wizards game? It was one of those.
I think that was the Wizards game. But no, Wizards game went to overtime, so Sixers game.
Yeah, and the reason he fouled out is because again, he's the one that's got to stop people from trying to get to the rim in transition. He's the first one to get back on defense. And every game, you still see him getting in people's faces. You still see him getting blocks. as well. He's another guy of like clear indication that the Pistons are like, hey, if you're a veteran on this team, you got to get in here and play defense. Duncan has 7 steals and 4 blocks so far. I forgot to see what he got tonight, so I'm not sure if that went for tonight. But and then 7 of 10 from three. You talked about his shooting variance, but his variance, I don't even think it really matters. Right now, Duncan in the 11 games anyway before tonight was shooting 39.2% from three. So that's obviously going to go up a lot after going 7 of 10 from three. But now, having seen him, and even in the Heat years where he was bad, I still felt like, why are people down on him? And I'm obviously, my opinion of Duncan is very biased. I'm a U of M alum. I went to college when he was there. I saw him, you know, his whole time. I told the story about my mom being the first I knew to really scout him as an NBA guy. So obviously, I am biased. But even if you remove that biases and you watch all of his games, it's like he hits the three at the right time. Is in those Wizards game too. I don't think he shot that well in the Wizards game, if I remember correctly, but he hit the threes when they needed them. And every game we've seen so far, even in the ones, I think there's only one where he went 0-5 or something like that. Again, the shooting variance doesn't matter because it's like even when he's not really as efficient from three as you want, it's like he hits the three at the right time. He might be 2 of 9 from three in a game, but he hits one at like the end of the second quarter to get the game even, or he hits one in the fourth quarter to help them be down 8 instead of being down 11. Stuff like that.
So, and we talked about it in the preseason, and the number 2 player in minutes is Duncan Robinson. He's always on the court because we need that floor spacing. We just need to have that shooter. And when he did fall out of that game, things got so much more difficult for Cade because then there's no spacing on the floor. And then after him in minutes is Tobias Harris, which is like, he's only played 6 games because of injury. But again, he's just a pro. He does what he's supposed to do. But that's why Duncan is on the court for all these times because he can space the floor. And I agree, he doesn't get enough credit because he is critical to this team. And that's why I think Chaz needs more minutes just so we can develop another shooter until the trade deadline when hopefully we add another shooter or, maybe Ivy is that other shooter that we need when he comes back. But he was supposed to get evaluated, so hopefully any day now I think he's supposed to be evaluated, but that's just an evaluation. That doesn't say like what the timetable is for his return. So yes, we need more shooting, and I could not imagine where this team would be without Duncan.
And Duncan did foul out tonight. He fouled out with like 2 minutes, 30 seconds left, 3 minutes somewhere in there. But he's another guy that I'm like, every foul, I'm like, it's either he's just contesting it and they're like, okay, we're going to give him that foul, or it's like he had to foul that guy. Otherwise, they were just getting a too easy shot. I mean, he still is slow and changes direction. If a guy shakes him, then he's obviously going to score. And there have been times where he got shook and then he fouled the guy because it's like, we're not going to give you an easy one. Keep fouling away. Who cares at this point? And I really don't think that Duncan is going to be like fouling out very often. They're down so many guys, especially with no Stu and no Asar there. Like Duncan's got to get in people's faces and play the way he has these last 3 games where it's like, I don't care. I don't care if you're going to blow the whistle on me because I have a lack of athleticism. So I'm going to get up in your face. I'm going to use my length, and you either have to get into my body and then put the game in the referee's hands there at that point. So yeah, Duncan, you cannot say enough good things about him. Again, 23 points tonight, 1 assist, 1 steal, 61.5% from the field, and again, 7 of 10 from three. Yeah, like you said, I do not know where this team would be without a Duncan Robinson.
Is there any other players you want to talk about before we talk about the guy coming back from injury?
I guess just very quick, Ron Holland. Again, Ron, I think he's just played his role perfectly of being the dude in the second unit to make things happen. He and Asar playing together, it's clear like he's like, okay, when Asar's here, I gotta definitely space out the floor more and start firing away from three. Do you think he's kind of let the slumps of being a shooter get into his head a little bit more? I would like him to fire away, even when he's not consistently hitting like the first two or three shots. But otherwise, like it's still clear that this guy is going to be a problem as a perimeter defender. He just does not care who is on the other end of the court. And I mean, it's clear that he can get to the rim and he can generate free throws. He might be like a Corliss Williams, where just in the second unit, like that's his main thing is attack, attack, attack. And he just starts getting to the free throw line and he's been knocking it down pretty good. I forgot to see what his free throw percentages after 11 games because it was consistently in the 80s and now it is still at 85.7%. And tonight from the free throw line, Ron, let's see what he did. I didn't get to the free throw line tonight, so it's still going to be 85.7%. And if there's a guy that like is still struggling from three, and you see the free throw percentage to be that good, not only is it good for the statistical profile and true shooting percentage, it's really good for his 3-point shot because very rarely do you see a guy that shoots really in the 80s, mid 80s or higher and then can't shoot from threes. It just doesn't exist very often.
So this is very critical, but I've been a little disappointed with Ron, not not in his bench role, but when he's been given more minutes, like when he started and he's playing more. I feel like in the longer stretches, I question some of his decision making. Sometimes when he drives to the basket, I think he's looking to get a foul instead of driving in there and just creating the contact where he could get more fouls called. I think the role they have him in is perfect. I just thought he'd be a little better when given expanded opportunities, and he hasn't. Um, but I think that also shows how much better the Pistons are in terms of being a team for a young player because a few years ago, Ron would have been having to play 30 minutes and just going through all these mistakes constantly and not necessarily being able to learn from them, if that makes sense. Where now he's in a situation where he has a smaller role, he can play that role, he can do well in it. They give him bigger opportunities. Sometimes it looks great, sometimes he doesn't look so good, but I think that's a good way to develop. I think with his 3-point shooting percentage, it's only like 30%, but I'm completely happy with it because he's showing big growth. And if he continues to work on his decision making and his driving to the basket, I think the future looks very bright. So don't take my criticism as being like I'm disappointed. I was just hoping I'd see more, but I'm happy with the growth we've seen.
Yeah, like what we saw from Dennis in these last two games, and what we saw with Beef Stew when he was in the starting lineup. Like I agree, like that's what I expected Ron to do, but it does definitely seem like he's understanding I have a role that is not supposed to get in the way of other guys. So I think when they've given him more minutes, like he still has that mindset of like I'm not gonna sit here and like hog the ball. I'm not gonna sit here and like try and take it over. I'm still the grab and go guy. I'm still trying to space out from three. And even if a Javante Green is like, "Hey, I'm going to show you what I can do," Juan's like, "I'm not going to do that. Still, I don't care that we're down 7 guys."
Anyone else you wanted to cover?
Not really in terms of that. Uh, Coming back to the worrisome part, though, this kind of goes into where we're going to be critical of certain players. I should probably have done this with the opening, of not necessarily beating like the best of teams, and we don't know if this is necessarily sustainable. Pistons are 27th in 3-point attempts, and they're 20th in 3-point percentage. That's obviously not good. And in today's NBA, I don't know the last team that was that low in both 3-point attempts and 3-point percentage that did anything in the playoffs. So that's why Andy and I are like, we still need a 3-point shooter. There is a statistical pairing that is more worrisome than the 3-point attempts and percentages? Do you have any idea what it might be, Andy?
I don't.
The Pistons are 29th in free throw percentage. Do you have any idea where they're at in free throw attempts?
24th.
Second. Pistons are second in free throw attempts, 29th in free throw percentage. Explain to our audience, Eddie, why this is the most worrisome stat on the Pistons.
Because we get to the line and we don't make our shots?
Sure, but why is that more worrisome for this specific team?
Well, this team, we struggle with scoring in general.
Yeah, in terms of points, this team is 16th. So they're like middle of the road. If they were even 20th, like you said, in free throw percentage, that probably gets them into like 11th or 13th offensively. And it does help mitigate the shooting concerns. This is my opinion. I think there are only 3 guys that are keeping the Pistons from being absolutely dead last in free throw percentage. You have any idea who those 3 guys are?
Duren?
Duren, yes. Maybe the best free throw shooter at the center position. Nobody can take that away from him.
Now I'm trying to think who gets to the line often. I mean, Cade?
I am going to say no. I actually think Cade, because normally he's like a mid 80s and above free throw shooter. He was at 77% for a minute, and now he's at 80.2%. I think he's missed way too many. And obviously, we hold him to a higher standard. And with him not shooting from 3 well either, he has to maintain 85% or better, which he is more than capable of doing. So I think he's a big reason why this team is still at the bottom of the barrel, because he hasn't been his usual self from the free throw line. So I don't put Cade in this 3 guys that are keeping them from being 30th.
Because Duncan doesn't get very many attempts, though, does he?
No, 1.6. And even him, 77.8% from the free throw line. When you're that good of a shooter, again, you got to be mid 80s from the free throw line, man.
So, Stu?
No, he's 65%. He's a big part of the problem.
Whoa. I did not realize Stu did not hit his free throws.
Yeah, he's normally like mid 70s, but he's just not been good so far.
Cares LeVert?
66.7%. He's actually terrible for a guard. I think his career high is like 72, 75%.
We're running out of people here. Tobias Harris?
94.4% from the free throw line. He was perfect for a long time.
Tobias, we need to get you back in the lineup, man. And then
Duren, Tobias, who's the third one?
Ron Holland.
Bingo. 85.7%. Again, Tobias, 94.4%. Duren, 80.8%. If you're wondering why I'm criticizing Cade at 80.2%, but praising Duren at 80.8%, name me another center that shoots 80% from the free throw line.
Yeah.
And I mean, Duren was at like 85, I think, for a minute. Spoiler alert. I mean, we're going to get into Duren and criticize his offense and how he's getting it. But the big thing is 6.6 attempts from the free throw line per game, 80.8%. A gigantic reason why Duren has had such an explosion in scoring. Duren's free throw attempt rate also is 61.3%, which is good. Super solid. And for a team that is struggling to get threes, a team who is number 1 in terms of paint attempts, like that's what you need. You need a guy that gets there a lot, and you need a guy that when he gets there, he either finishes it really well, or if he doesn't, that he knocks down pretty much all his free throws. It's the reason why Duren has a 70.5% true shooting percentage. Even if the scoring comes down, like I would be pretty disappointed if Duren didn't end up with over 70% true shooting, because he is a great free throw shooter and pretty much all he does is dunk. That's the recipe for getting 70% or better true shooting. And then Ron, again, Ron's pretty much automatic from the free throw line. He needs to get to the free throw line more. He's only getting 1.9 trips per game, and his free throw attempt rate's 23.9%, criminally low. But we'll see how that ends up working out. I think if he learns how to get like a shot fake and leverage his 3-point shot into drawing guys off and then getting extra attention, like you could see that free throw attempt rate going up 10 percentage points and that making another big difference there. And then Tobias has just always been pretty much automatic from the free throw line. Even when why I say it's the most worrisome stat too, because I'm like, I still think Cade's going to get up to like mid 50s. I mean, how realistically, mid 80s, realistically, how much does that bring them up to like 25th in free throw percentage? Because again, Duncan's still below average for as good of a shooter he is. Stu 65%. Hopefully he gets back at the 70s. That probably gets them at like 20th. Javonte Green is 73.3% before tonight, which was 42.9%. So that's going down. Dennis is 62.5% so far. And you know who the worst culprit at the free throw line is? I mean, you already know.
Asar Thompson?
48.7%. That is inexcusable. We haven't really talked about Asar, and we're obviously pro Asar. Asar does everything well on the court except shoot. And unfortunately, that's really hurting them at the free throw line. It's inexcusable for any NBA player to be below 50% from the free throw line. I don't know what needs to happen. I don't know if he needs to like live with Fred Vincent or something, but like 48.7% from the free throw line is a liability. If that's still the case in like 50 games, if I'm another coach, I'm like, foul that guy the minute he gets on the court. I don't even care if we're playing a game yet. Like, foul him when he wakes up. And if you get in the playoffs, forget it. Going to be borderline unplayable. Nobody really does like the hack a Shaq kind of strategies as much, but as much as I criticize Duren's defense of like standing out in a negative way, if Asar maintains this free throw percentage, it's that bad. It's going to stand out to where why wouldn't you take advantage of it if you just can't knock down free throws and he can't shoot anyway? You don't have to guard him from three. He's going to drive in. That's the thing. Just foul him then because he got a better shot at him bricking both free throws than you do at him making that runner or that jumper. Even with his mid-range jumper, it probably goes down more than 48.7%.
I wonder if he's one of those guys that we'll see do a dramatic change in his free throw. Like, will he be a guy who shoots a jump shot from the free throw line because he can't shoot a normal? I mean, that's bad. That's really bad.
And yeah, the star's still the man on defense. He's still the man with the ball in his hands. That's still a good thing. But again, come 50 games, we're really going to see, like, does that affect them? And especially come playoff time, if they make it, which obviously the space they're going to, that might be something that gives you pause of like, oof, I don't know how much we can sustain with this much of a liability.
I know he hasn't shot much more, but at least he has been shooting some threes. That has been good.
Yeah, 1.3 attempts, 30.8%. Obviously, honestly, if he keeps that up all season, that's actually really good and a positive step forward and somewhat mitigates the 48.7% from the free throw line. So say your prayers, cross your fingers, whatever you got to do. Asar's got to get better from the free throw line. All right. I've been putting this off. Jalen Duren. I'll let you lead this off. Say what you want to say about Duren because I am going to bring some critical stuff along the way while also trying to be objective and praise this explosion of points that we've seen in these 11 games.
I am very happy with the season that Duren is having. Um, I think he has shown improved touch around the rim. I think he's done a good job driving to the basket more, being aggressive, getting to the free throw line, all those things. So he is showing the offensive potential that I thought he had. That's been good. He has looked better on the defensive end. I know he's still not great, but he has shown improvements. And while I know everyone else is already saying we should have already extended him and now we're going to have to pay him a ton of money, which fine, okay for me. Um, I think the best thing is whether we sign him or even if we trade him. And I know people think that's unthinkable to trade this young prospect, but if you think about it, his value right now is dramatically higher than what it was before. Um, so overall, I think him playing good is just a win. For any of our young guys, playing good is a win because either they're helping us on the court, or if we do make a move or make a trade, they're going to get us much more in return than when they're a giant question mark. But with his age, I don't see the Pistons trading him just because you don't want to be the guy who traded the next superstar.
Yeah, for sure. During 11 games, I think it's 11 games. Yeah, 11 games, 19.4 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 1.6 assists, 1.1 steals, 1.2 blocks per game. And then shooting splits for Duren, LOL, 64.7% from two. He ain't taking no threes. And then the aforementioned 80.8% from the free throw line. Just to reiterate, Duren's impeccable true shooting percentage, 70.5%. And then free throw attempt rate, 61.3%. Offensive rebounding, 16.5%. I haven't looked at this, but I mean, he's got to be number one in like pretty much every offensive rebounding category. 27.2% defensive rebounding percentage, which translates into a 21.8% total rebounding percentage. Duren's also still maintained second best usage or second most usage, I should say, on his team with 22.7%, which thankfully went down from last time, which, if you remember, after 5 games, it was like 24%. And you and I were like, not going to cut it. I think 22 is still a good percentage of like, we give you enough, but we also don't like think you're a legitimate second option. And let's face it, without Cade, I don't know how good Duren is. I guess I'll just get into it because I wanted to try and like give a little bit more praise to Duren, but my thought in my next research project is trying to find in the minutes without Cade, what does Duren's statistical profile look like? To me, a lot of the turnovers that this Piston team has had is because they're trying to force feed Duren lobs, which I get it. That should be a staple part of your offense with how good he is at it, maybe the best in the NBA. Cade and he were number one in lobs last season, but it's clear that might be the thing that every defense in the NBA has prepared to eliminate. Every game they're going in, I've seen at least 5 turnovers as a result of them trying to get Duren a lob. And it's not like Duren's hands got on it and then it fall off. It's that Cade is double teamed or Duren is double teamed, and one of those other guys gets the ball to go somewhere else. So again, I'll return to this because I don't necessarily want to criticize it. And obviously, like the Cade and Duren, chemistry is one of the best in the league. Nobody can take that away from them. Just how well they play off each other in the pick and roll is the big reason why Duren's been able to drop 30 in some games, right? So there's that. But like how much of it is being force fed there? Defensively, I don't get it. I understand there are improvements, and I've looked at the on-off numbers. The on-off numbers say he's in like 77th and like 79th percentile in points per 100 and defensive field goal percentage or effective field goal percentage, excuse me. But then I looked at like Cade's on-off numbers, and Cade's on-off numbers, none of them are like elite except for maybe the points per 100 possession on offense. And then I looked at like Stu's, and his defensive numbers were like mediocre or above average. And even Duren's on offense, he wasn't elite in any category. And I'm like, I don't agree with that part of it either. So where Duren, I feel like he should be in like that 80th, 90th percentile at least, but it's not there. So w- with on-off numbers, I think I'm gonna have to give them a larger sample size this season And Annie and I talked about it a little bit before recording. It's just like, I think because the team is so deep and so good, it's not like previous years where obviously the on-off numbers when a guy comes in and the backup unit comes in, they're not as good. The numbers I do want to end with Duren. So Duren on shot 6 feet and in, he's allowing 54.4%, which is a big improvement from last year on 5.2 attempts per game. But there's another Piston allowing 53.7% on shots 6 feet and in on 4.9 attempts per game. So pretty much around the same attempts, just a little bit lower. Who do you think that Piston is?
Stu?
No,
Because Stu, like, zero. He doesn't allow anything.
I think it's something like 32% to be like real.
But you said they're getting the same number?
4.9 attempts per game. Duren's getting 5.2. So it's around the same. Duren's 54.4% on 6 feet and in, and this other Piston is 53.7% on shot 6 feet and in.
So per game, it's even if they have only played like 6 games?
So both of these guys had played 11 games.
Oh. Um,
So I pulled this from 11 games. Both of them.
okay. I don't know.
Duncan Robinson. Why is that your reaction?
Because it's Duncan Robinson. I mean, you know,
Yeah, this is the double whammy of like why I think Duncan's not getting enough love. Put some respect on his name. See how well he's doing on defense. If you're going to praise Jalen Duren on his market improvements on defense, Duncan's facing pretty much the same attempts at the rim every game, and he's having a better percentage. He's doing a better job of keeping guys from scoring 6 feet and in. He's probably like 100 pounds lighter than Duren too, like a string bean compared to him. That's not good. And it's not like Duncan hasn't faced dudes. He faced down Paulo, he faced down Franz. He had to guard Alex Sar a couple possessions in the Wizards game. Tonight he faced all the Bulls guys, right? So it's like Duren's still lacking on defense. The Asar blow up, I don't think is something we should go unanalyze. The Asar blow up in the Philly game where Asar clearly was like, why are you not contesting? Just lets Andre Drummond, sink an easy shot. Asar doesn't do that either. I've never seen Asar blow up on a teammate. And then in that Wizards game, if you follow Lazarus Jackson of DBB, Detroit Bad Boys from SB Nation, if you follow Keith Trudell, like Laz was at the game and he even remarked in the Wizards game, like, this is not a good defensive game for Duren. A lot of laziness, a lot of just not caring about it. Those things still creep in. Meanwhile, Duren still has a higher turnover percentage than Cade. Go look it up. And Duren's 8.8 assist rate. Like his playmaking, why is nobody upset that it went away? That's probably my biggest question. Like it is non-existent. Duren is looking for his own shot. He is not kicking it out to other guys. That's the big part to me that is like, I don't care how many points he's scoring. Like he's got to be passing again because guys are still triple and double teaming Cade because Duren's not kicking it out to him, not kicking it out to shooters. And once playoff time comes, everybody's going to be like, let Duren go, man. Who cares? He's not going to find shooters. He's going to look for his own shot. You damn sure ain't going to find Cade. So why should we even worry about it? That's still my biggest concern. Still a long season ahead of us. We know what Duren can do from, passing and moving the ball. It's worrisome to me that that stuff has gone away in the midst of this explosion. It seems like Duren is hunting his own shot rather than utilizing this to grow his game.
so I'm going to have to look and see, I guess, how much Duren is forcing shots and then also what his percentage is on non-dunks. Like, what is his shooting percentage on non-dunks? Because if he's still shooting an efficient percentage, then it's like, keep shooting. Like that, I'm okay with that. But if it's like his dunks are disguising that his other shots are not efficient because he's actually like it's weird because I'm happy and I'm upset at the same time when he does this. There's a couple of times when he's put up a jump shot and one he bricked and one he buried it. And because adding a consistent shot, I do feel like continues to open up his game and open up options for him. Kind of like Udonis Haslem had his baseline shot where it's like this is his spot. If he's open, he's gonna get it, he's gonna shoot it, he's gonna make it like every time. I think that's critical for every player to develop one of those. Um, you mentioned how the statistics are a little weird right now with lineups, and I think part of it is the starting lineup in a number of games got behind in every single game. And then they would come back at the end, and a lot of times it's just Cade Cunningham bringing his team back. And if he brought them back with the bench unit or whoever was on the court when he brought them back, your numbers look better. So it will take a little bit more time to see because Duren is a player, and plus minus isn't the best stat, but he is a player that normally his plus minus is not very good. And this year it has been better. So, but it's only been 12 games. He's only played in 11. So we'll see, I guess, what comes of that.
Yeah, and real quick again to give you the numbers, Duren has a 8.8 assist percentage, which is one of the worst on the team. 15.2% turnover rate. Compare that to Cade, whose turnover rate is 12.5%. So Duren's is considerably higher when you think about all the usage Cade has, as well as Cade has a 43.1% assist percentage. Obviously, we're not going to say Duren can like even dream that he could do that, but previous seasons for Duren, just looking at those assist percentages, and it's the one thing, again, even for somebody like me, like you couldn't take away from him. It just seemed like he was progressing there, and there was something the coaching staff could build on. 12.7% assist percentage, and during second year, last year, 14.7% assist rate. Again, what is happening with this? That's probably the number one thing to monitor. And where I do want to end with Duren is, okay, he's scoring very well. He's exploding. Looks like he could be a legitimate offensive option. Outside of scoring, where's Duren improving? An open-ended question for anybody out there. So that's where we're going to end this. We'll return next time talking a little bit about Ivy, since it does seem like Ivy is going to be returning, as well as thinking of some trade packages, because it's clear already, like we know what this team is and where their deficiencies are. And there's a reason why every last single podcast and basketball show, when they bring up the Pistons, Laurie Markkinen like inevitably somehow creeps into the conversation. Andy, let everybody know where they can find you before we get out of here.
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan.
Looking forward to more Dennis Jenkins. Looking forward to Kay getting some rest, much needed rest. And then we'll see how Ivy integrates and everything else turns out. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. We will catch you next time. We're going to